Thank you for watching the World Community Magazine's Hour of Power Live on Facebook with your host Edward McQueen and April Garner Davis.
And I say good evening to our wonderful audience this evening. Welcome to the program. Glad to have you with us. April is working behind the scenes tonight, so she put the task on me. So anyway, it's so nice to be here, and it's good to have our audience to tuning back in again. I'm your host, Ed McQueen, and tonight, we're right into Black History Month. We call it a month, but to us it's 365. But on the other hand, it's also mentioned that this is a year of 250 year celebration that celebrated by America in general. So there is existence. So having said that, we have opportunities to talk with many people who have dwelled on that, and some people, like for example, our guest that's coming up, not immediately, but our guest that was promoted will be giving us some hindsight as to how everything took place during the last 250 years. And he has had a rapid experience in it, and he's been on our program before. So we hope you enjoy it, and he's going to share his journey and updated date information on what is known as the slave dwelling project. Before we do that, however, we want to always be mindful that we want to keep you up with the updated news locally, events that are happening. And so with that, there's one event that's coming up that we wanted to highlight tonight, and it's the upcoming Gullah Geechee Community Day. And here to help us expand on that a little farther is Miss Zenobia Harper, and we're so glad to have her, Miss Harper. Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome. I know you have a lot to tell us, but you always have a lot to tell us. So you can go ahead and give us an update on this wonderful event, which happens every year. And this is about the Gullah Geechee Community Day. So go ahead, Zenobia, and fill us in on it, because we really need it.
Okay, thank you so much for having me, and thank you for supporting Gullah Geechee Community Day every year. So Gullah Geechee Community Day will be taking place this year, February 24th, which is the Saturday, not this Saturday, but next Saturday. And as every year, we occupy downtown Conway. And so we will be having workshops and presentations and fun and arts and crafts for young people throughout the downtown area. From the town green, we will have vendors and wonderful opportunities there, all the way to the Horry County Museum. So things get started at 10 o'clock at the Horry County Museum Auditorium, where we open up the festivities for the day. Right. And then you get the opportunity to just, wander around and partake of all of the things that we will have going on. Some of the things that I really want to highlight is, number one, we are doing a conversation that we are calling, let me find my notes. We are having a conversation about legacy with Professor O'Neill Smalls of Freewood Farms. So I don't know how many people know, but the Freewood Farms has been, the day-to-day operation of Freewood Farms has been turned over to the University of South Carolina. So we want to honor all of the work that Professor Smalls has done over the years to create Freewood Farms as this living farm museum, and all of the support that it has given to the community. So we're having a conversation with him. We are blessed to be able to have, as a part of that conversation, the mayor of Conway is going to be a part of that. I understand that he was a mentor of hers, so we are so appreciative of her being a part of this. So that is a very special event. We will also have his book available. We will have his book available. The new book that he wrote is called Blessed Be the Tides That Bind Freewood's Community in the 1950s. So this book, which way do I go? This book will be for sale. So we want people to come and enjoy what Professor Smalls has to say, and also come and support and buy the book. So that event, I think, starts at, I think it's 11. I'm not sure, but you can go to Gullah Geechee GullahGeecheeDay.com, and there's a list of all the scheduled programming on that website. Go ahead. Did you want to ask a question?
No, just agreeing with you, concurring.
Okay, and so Gullah Geechee Collective is a band out of Charleston, South Carolina. They will be closing out Gullah Geechee Community Day with a drum and dance workshop, and then the performance. So that will be from 2:00, I believe, until 4. So we want people to stay and enjoy that. Every year, our community liaison, Miss McIver, and Miss Gwen Alston do arts and crafts for the kids, and that will be going on all day at First United Methodist Church in downtown Conway. Also, because she is literacy is so important to the work that Miss McIver does, books, and more books will be available for kids to take before they leave the arts and crafts activities. And we have some really, really neat books that are going to be there. So we have this book, which way? Little Black Girl, Oh How Far You Can Go. Somebody needs to come and pick up this book for a child or a grandchild. I am really loving this new book by Taharji P. Henson. You can be a good friend. We're going to have, I think, 2 copies of this book available for kids to take. We also have Float Like a Butterfly, the story of Muhammad Ali. And we are also going to have, I think, several copies of Kamala Harris, Rooted in Justice, and also other books around prominent African Americans for our kids to read about. We really do have the power to bring and keep literacy in our communities. So before the young people leave that venue, we want them to get as many books as we have there. Reverend Cheryl Adamson is also going to be a speaker. She is going to speak on the topic, Your History, Your Story, and African American Pictorial History of Horry County. So we're really looking forward to that. We have 2 presentations coming out of Atlantic Beach. Jay Devine with Stars is going to talk about blending environmental restoration and the culture of Atlantic Beach. Pat Millett will be talking about the history, the music, and the soul of Atlantic Beach. We are having a conversation around heirs property. One of our young new graduates, her name is Cheyenne Bellamy. She is hosting a conversation with the Center for Heirs Property, Ms. Monica Graves, and the Center for Heirs Property, geared toward younger people, so that younger people begin to understand what heirs property is legally, so that they can start to step up and understand the role of heirs property, so that we can begin to hold on to our heirs property in community. So that presentation is called Holding the, my husband just slipped me a note and said that did I say USC? Oh, I'm sorry, Miss McIver. So State College, South Carolina State College, I'm sorry, is this South Carolina State University is the entity that is taking over the day-to-day workings of Freewood Farms. So I need to correct that. Thank you, Ms. McGyver. I appreciate that. So Holding the Land is the workshop that Monica Graves from the Center for Heirs Property is having. So if you know any young people in their 20s, even in their late teens and 20s and 30s, that you think need to come and hear this information about heirs property. Oftentimes we hear about heirs property too late. When I was growing up, we didn't really talk about heirs property until, property was already being lost. But we need to engage our young people at an earlier age so that they understand what heirs property is by law, so that they can then be in work and conversations with their families about keeping and holding on to that property. There are going to be lots of other speakers. We have a tea tasting that we do every year that's really popular with a local herbalist by the name of Jackie Williams. That will be at the Bryan House.
Always good tea.
Yes, it's always good tea. And she usually does about 3 flavors. So come on out. And like I said, Gullah-Geechee.com, you can look at the schedule and figure out how to schedule your day. So we are, like I said, we will be there from things start at the auditorium at 10 o'clock and we go till 4 o'clock. And we really want the whole of the community to come out and have fun and enjoy and get good information from local people. One of the other things, Edward, that we will be doing, we also have a master indigo dyer. Her name is Ariane King Comer. This is the 3rd year she will be there. So she creates a community indigo dye vat. So we will have items available for people to come out and, enjoy dyeing in that beautiful, rich indigo blue. The day before that, we will have our student research symposium. The Joyner Institute for Gullah and African Diaspora Studies was very blessed to get a grant from the Mellon Foundation to create the student and community-led project around Gullah-Geechee foodways that we have entitled In Gullah, Cook on a Years and Yam Up the Good Biddles, which means listen with intention and eat good food in English. It was important for us to use the Gullah-Geechee language as the primary language for this workshop. And so we are moving young students from Coastal Carolina through the Gullah-Geechee communities, focusing on the northern end of the corridor, using food as the vehicle to teach them and have them learn and be immersed in Gullah-Geechee culture. And that's happening on the 20th, the day before Gullah-Geechee Community Day. So come out and enjoy and support the culture and learn something new.
Wow, it's always good. So Zenobia, all this is taking place where? At the Coastal Carolina University?
So the symposium will be taking place at Coastal Carolina University in the Singleton building, in the Allen Ballroom. And the symposium starts at 10 o'clock as well, and will go until till 4, around 4.
Okay, so all these 2 events are on the same day?
No. So the symposium is on the 20th, which is a Friday.
Right.
And then the Gullah-Geechee Community Day is always on Saturday.
On Saturday, okay, 21st. And that is also from 10 to 4.
That's also from 10 to 4, and Gullah-Geechee Community Day is always free and open to the public.
Yeah, as is the symposium?
No, the symposium, there is a fee for the symposium, and you can go to the Joyner Institute website page if you would like to register for the symposium.
Okay, all right. That's good. It's good heads up information. We certainly appreciate that in the community. I'm sure they're grateful for this information because there's always something exciting every year.
Yes, we really do try and make it as exciting as possible, and giving people an opportunity to feel comfortable with culture in Conway. Yeah,
absolutely. From 10 to 4, it gives them ample time to really see everything.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay, so now we look. Thank you so much for coming in and updating us on this wonderful event that's going to be taking place. I'm certainly looking forward to it. The World Community Magazine is looking forward to it.
Yes, you all always support every year, and I appreciate you and your wife and April for all of the support that you give the Institute and to the festival.
Absolutely, absolutely. So again, it's going to be February 21st, 10 to 4 p.m. and February 20. Well, 20. That Friday's on the 20th for the symposium. Yeah. So
yes, the symposium is on the 20th.
Right.
Gala Day on the 21st.
Yeah. And wow, you're going to be honoring a legacy, a conversation with Mr. Smalls.
Oh, I am so looking forward to that. He
is
such a beautiful man, and I think that it is important each and every time we get the opportunity to celebrate him and let everybody know the legacy that he has left for us and all of the work that he has done to put that farm together.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, again, thank you so much. Thank you. Yeah, and looking forward for the events and certainly if it's being coordinated with you, I know it's going to be successful. So.
Honey, thank you. You're more confident than I am at this point.
You're gonna do a great job as usual.
Thank you so much.
All right. So looking forward to seeing you. All right.
All right. Thank you. You all take care.
Yes. Thank you so much.
All right.
Wow. So I hope you got that information and good digestion, because this was really a wonderful event that people take a lot of time during the course of the year to make sure that it is successful. And again, that was Miss Zenobia Harper. She's the executive director over at the Joint Institute for Gullah Geechee. So now, as we said earlier, that we wanted to give you some more information in recognizing this 250 years that everybody seems to be celebrating. Yeah. We want to, yes. So now we want to start with our main man, Mr. Joe McGill, who just recently on this past Saturday gave everybody a good update on his sleeping, and we call it the dwelling project, slave dwelling project. So without further ado, let's check in with Brother Joe. Mr. McGill.
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah, man, you always have something to say.
Have to.
Yeah. Everything that you have to say is important. So we certainly appreciate that, and we want to recognize that, doing fully. Continue to assist you in any way that we possibly can, and making sure that this thing goes all over the world, man. Okay, but the world needs to see that. The world needs to see that. So to our audience, this is Mr. Joe McGill. He's the executive director of the Slave Dwelling Project, and he's been doing this for. Well, I won't go any further. Let me let Mr. McGill tell you all about it. Go ahead, Joe. Give us a good background.
Yes. My name is Joseph McGill. I'm from close by. I'm from Williamsburg County, Kingstree, South Carolina.
Right.
So I graduated from Kingstree, South Carolina, Kingstree High School, and I went into the Air Force. Spent 6 years in the Air Force. Got out of the Air Force, went to South Carolina State University. Graduated from there with an English degree. And while I was at South Carolina State University, I got a job as a park ranger at Fort Sumter, right here in Charleston, right there in Charleston. Left Charleston and went to Penn Center on St. Helena Island. Worked there a few years before going out to Iowa to build an African-American museum, moving back from there back to Charleston, working for the National Trust for Historic Preservation. And then I worked at Magnolia Plantation and Gardens was my last full-time job. But When I was working for the National Trust for Historic Preservation, I got this crazy idea of sleeping in slave dwellings. And it has evolved into what is now the Slave Dwelling Project. It started out as that crazy idea because I saw an opportunity to bring attention to slave dwellings, because a lot of times people visit historic homes, antebellum homes, to see the nice, beautiful big house, the house on the hill, and they want to stay right there. They want to stay with those thoughts, the people who inhabited those spaces. But none of that would have existed without the stolen labor of my enslaved ancestors, your enslaved ancestors. So, what the Slave Dwelling Project does is bring attention to those spaces where they inhabited. So, for the last 16 years, I've gone to 25 states and the District of Columbia, spending nights in slave dwellings, and still at it. So that's the short story.
That's a short story. I know, man. On your website, you kind of give the audience a good background as to what you've been doing and what you're going to be doing, and just the graphics of those houses that you showed. I mean, these are actual the old slave dwelling houses. Okay, and just showing that on your website was, to me, is eye catching. Okay, and I'm just a little uncomfortable sometimes as to the rate of our young people not gaining the knowledge of that. Okay,
yeah,
they need to see that, and if there's some way that we can keep having maybe that website in their faces all the time, I think that would go a long way. Okay.
Yeah. Well, part of the reasons for the young folks not getting it is because sometimes the adults stand in the way of them getting it, because they try to legislate what the children should be learning or not learning, and in them trying to legislate it all, the kids lose out in taking part or indulging in this history that we can certainly disseminate to them. If we can get past the adult or through the adults, we can certainly get to the kids. Now, luckily for us, we there is the internet, there is social media, there is Facebook, there's TikTok, there's TikTok now. So Slave Dwelling Project is on TikTok. We go to where the young minds are, and we communicate with them through that means also. But it's still shocking to some. The message that we give, the history that we talk about is uncomfortable to some, and that's okay. It's not. It shouldn't be comfortable, because our enslaved ancestors lived lives no one should have been subjected to, but they persevered. They made it through, and we are the evidence of them making it through. We are their receipts. So yes.
Yeah, man. Just again, the dwelling that you have. You talk, and I caught the last end of it at your event this past Saturday at the Conway Museum. I was well attended, by the way. I think over 125 people. The last count I'd gotten from one of the participants, and the sponsors, who was the Miss Cheryl Adamson, and she told me that number was over 125 people. I thought that was significant.
Impressive, I'd say.
Yeah, Conway, okay? You're talking about Conway.
I think one amazing thing was a lot of amazing things, but one amazing thing was that was my second time being there in the span of a year. A year didn't elapse. A year didn't pass between when I was there first and yesterday.
Right.
I mean, this past weekend, and the audience Saturday was larger than the one previous. So, and I think that's a good thing. So you guys showed up. So thank you.
It was talked about a lot. Okay, and you had a number of references for people to to come to contact you and to follow you a bit more. That was on the screen. I'm trying to get the opportunity to pull it down. And like I said, I came on the last end of it. But you talked about it was what was interesting to me. The part that I got, you were talking, and I don't know to what extent, but about the possibility or the feasibility of having something like this in the UK.
Yeah.
So yeah,
So yeah, we need a repository. We
right.
need we need a repository because our history here is being threatened. Threatened by the regime. People are going to places like George Washington's house in Philadelphia, and
Yeah,
and, and taking down displays that talks about our history, the history of our enslaved ancestors, the history of people who possessed our DNA in that period in history. When George Washington, when he was our president, and Philadelphia was our capital at the time, that's where George Washington was. That's where he was our president, the capital city of Philadelphia. And because he was in the state of Pennsylvania, he was following those Pennsylvania rules. And those Pennsylvania rules said that if you enslave a person for 6 months, you have to free that person. Well, those Pennsylvanians will sometimes enslave those people for 5 months and some change, send them back down south, bring in a brand new batch, start the process all over. Our President George Washington, that George Washington who could not tell a lie, well, he would be following that pattern. I mean, he would bring those people to Philadelphia, enslave them in that house, the house that they don't want us to talk about, our people, and he would enslave them for that 5 months and change, and send them back down south, bringing a whole new batch from Mount Vernon, just to start that process all over again. And thank goodness for Ona Judge, because she outsmarted him. She escaped, and because Ona Judge escaped, she managed to live rent free in George Washington's head for the rest of his life, because he was steadily hunting her down, and she was never caught. In fact, that's the name of the book, a book about uh, about her, Never Caught.
honest judge. She was being sought after by George Washington,
That is correct. Yes.
the man who never told a truth. I mean, a lie. Let's the guy.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
But anyway, look, Joe. We got some of our viewers, man. They're sending in some comments. Let me share a few with you. Yeah. So of course, Miss Marjorie McIver. You're familiar with her, right?
What's her name again?
Miss Marjorie McIver. She
I
asked,
should know her.
yeah, she asked, would you create opportunities for young people to sleep in any of these dwellings?
Oh yeah. Yeah, we want young kids to hang out with us. Of course, properly chaperoned. We can make it work. We can certainly make it work, and we want to do that. In fact, our next event, in about 2 weeks, we're going to be at Magnolia Plantation and Gardens, doing a program, a living history program, just for students. We're doing it on a Friday, and we're doing it especially for students. Won't be a sleepover involved in this, but we will be there doing living history. We will have somebody demonstrating sweetgrass basket making, cooking, blacksmithing, and we will have storytellers there also. And we will be there dressed in period outfits. And we're entertaining a lot of places, going to a lot of places this year, because of course it's the 250th anniversary. So we're taking on that colonial appeal, that era,
Yeah.
in our history. But yeah, we can set up those sleepovers with students, and of course their chaperones.
Yeah. And that sounds great. That's glad to know you're accommodating like that. Well, I think she's also she's willing to coordinate with you as much as possible.
All
She's just
right,
that
make
kind
it
of
so.
person. Yeah.
Make it so.
And make it so.
Yes.
So, but as I was saying about the UK, can you give us a little what
Oh,
would it take for that to occur? I mean,
oh
what would
yeah,
you?
yeah, yeah. We're communicating. We're communicating with our folks in mainly Liverpool, because we're doing research right now. I say we. Herb
Right,
Fraser and I. We wrote the book "Sleeping with the Ancestors: How I Followed the Footprints of Slavery," and it kind of chronicles my sleepover in these cabins. Well, because it's the 250th anniversary of the American Revolution, Herb and I are doing additional research, and it's going to be about the colonial era, 1770 through 1783. And because it's
right,
that era, our research, we're doing the research accordingly, and we're going to do a report, and we're going to make it a book. So we're communicating with our folks in Liverpool. We're communicating with our folks in Nova Scotia because we're getting deeply into that subject matter of patriot versus loyalists. Some of those enslaved people fought for the patriots, the American side, but it was fewer of those because as Americans and living that life during that period, any black people, the fate, your fate. You was living that life. You were enslaved. So more people took their chances fighting with the British, the loyalists, because of promises that were made to them, freedom. And the British made good on the offer for some of those, most of those folks. And now some were reneged upon, but there was a great percentage of those who fought for the British who left these United States, and some went to Nova Scotia. A great number of them went to Nova Scotia, and stayed there. Some went to the Caribbean islands, but some went to Nova Scotia and were not thrilled with what they got. So they left there and some went back to Africa. Um, of course, Liverpool, the role that they played in this thing called the transatlantic slave trade, up until 1808, they were pretty active in that transatlantic slave trade. So we're doing that research with them. We're communicating with them because they have a lot of input for what Herb Fraser and I are researching. But
right.
what we want to do, we want to take it a step further with Nova Scotia. We want to take it a step further with Nova Scotia because we might need them to be the Underground Railroad again
Yeah,
because of the threat that's coming out of Washington to this history. We need a repository. We need a repository, quite possibly beyond the boundaries of the United States, to protect this history that is us. Because, there was that purge of when Trump took office, there was that purge of the national websites, of anything black, any history not glorifying white men. That stuff was purged from those websites. Some of it made its way back, but some of it didn't. Now the effort is front and center against us. Going to places like George Washington's home in Philadelphia is declaring present threat right now. They took that same thought process to Mississippi, to where Medgar Evers was assassinated. And now they're telling us that we cannot classify Brian Della Beckworth as a racist, as a member of the White Citizens Council. There this effort at some of these sites that interpret the Native American presence, where we were giving the Native Americans agency in pulling out of the status, pulling them from the status of what they were labeled as the aggressor, as the as the enemy, and praising them. as they should be praised. Now there's this effort through the National Park Service to go backwards. And but the slave dwelling project, we're going to be here. We're going to continue to do what we do because we've been around now for 16 years. We saw it then. We a lot of folks are just kind of catching up to what they've been doing all along. But the slave dwelling project is kind of ahead of the curve because we saw it, we know it. We're in the midst of this thing, so we're not surprised. When we see images, negative images of our former president Barack Obama and First Lady Michelle Obama, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised at all.
Yeah, we shouldn't be. We shouldn't be surprised now.
This project has prepared me for all that. So there.
So Joe, I know this has been rather enduring for you for the past 16 years. Share with us some of the places that you've gone and some of the ones that have really given you a challenge.
Oh, yeah. So the first year, so year one, 2010, it was only my intent to stay here in the state of South Carolina. It was going to be one and done because that's where my limited resources would take me, So I started staying, in these places in and around the state of South Carolina. Magnolia Plantation, where this thing started, and in Georgetown County, Hopsawee Plantation was great.
Let me stop you there.
Yes.
I'm not trying to promote Magnolia Plantation, but that's where we first saw you at one time, and you were like a tour guide there. Was that correct?
Yes.
Would you like to talk about that as your humble beginning? I look at that as one of your humble beginnings for even endeavoring the slave project.
Yeah. So it was Magnolia Plantation where the idea was birthed. So
that's located in Charleston.
In Charleston, South Carolina, on the Ashley River. If you go on Highway 61 going away from Charleston, you get the Drayton Hall, then Magnolia Plantation, then Middle Plantation. Well, I worked at Magnolia Plantation, but I was a part of a team of people who was inspecting the work done to the cabins that were being restored. And as a part of that team, I uttered out loud that I would like to spend the night in one of those cabins when the work was done. Well, somebody in my presence heard it, took it up the chain of command to Tom Johnson, who was the executive director at the time. God, rest his soul. And he thought it was a great idea. I said, oh, well, if he thinks it's a great idea, maybe others will too. And then I acquired a list from the State Historic Preservation Office in Columbia. I told them my intent. Well, they got it. They understood my intent. And so they provided me a list of places that fit the category of what I sought. And I started making phone calls. And luckily for me, as I made those phone calls explaining myself, I got 3 or 4 yeses before I got my first no. And because I got those 3 or 4 yeses, that no was a little, was less impactful because I had already had that commitment. And I just continued to call. And then people started, once I started sleeping in these places. Well, let me go back. Let me tell you a little more about my sleepover at Magnolia Plantation, my first night.
Right.
So so there I was. I went to the site, and there was a TV crew there to meet me, and of course they eventually went away, and there I was all by myself in this slave cabin, and I thought about things. I thought about my enslaved ancestors being in this space. I thought about mothers. Because that next morning was going to be Mother's Day. So I thought about mothers who gave birth in those spaces. And the law of that period deemed them as property. And I thought about the men of that space, all the people in that space working, but were not able to build any wealth, not able to own anything. So I thought about, all that. I thought about running away and people of that period contemplating running away. Thought about bloodhounds, thought about the fact that, this was a swamp. I mean, rice field, but swamp nonetheless. where one plantation ended, another one began, and so on, and so forth. So I thought about all those things, but I eventually got to sleep, and I woke up the next morning, not familiar with the property because that was only my second time on the property. Went to the cemetery, um, and I saw the headstones there because it was an active cemetery up until the 1990s. And I saw that some people were born enslaved but died free. And I saw indentions in the earth, and I knew that that was the places where if enslaved people were lucky enough to have been buried in a box, well, that box would eventually give way and the earth above it would conform. So I saw those indentions in the earth, and I knew it was for those people that I was about to start on this journey. But all that is wrapped up in Magnolia Plantation. Now, you meeting me there, um, it kind of came full circle because when I was no longer employed by the National Trust for Historic Preservation, Magnolia Plantation became my full-time job. So I was allowed to nurture the slave dwelling project there as I worked at Magnolia Plantation and Garden. So it holds a place in my heart. So that's why, I'm going to be going back there in about 2 weeks to hang out with the kids. We're going to be doing a Juneteenth program there at Magnolia Plantation and Gardens, and we might be doing a sleepover there when we have our conference.
It just yeah. Yeah. It just seemed like you had a lot of flexibility when you started off and you were touring us because my wife and I we were part of the tours there, and to take and we took your transportation modes to one of the slave dwelling houses. Okay. And that was eye catching. It was eye opening. You gave a good narration, which lasted about 15 to 20 minutes of what actually happened with those particular buildings that were authentic. I mean, those are real slave dwelling buildings there. And we had the opportunity to go inside, and if nothing had changed, I think one had to have a high tolerance level or a low tolerance level in order to endure something like that. And I believe you mentioned that it was as recent as maybe less than 50 years ago that someone was still living in there. Is that correct?
Oh yeah, people lived in those slave cabins at Magnolia Plantations up until the 1990s, early
Really?
90s. Yeah. In fact,
and were they were laborers of the Magnolia Plantation, or?
Well, paid labor, but laborers nonetheless. At least one person who would have been living in that cabin would have been working at Magnolia. Yes, at that period in history.
Wow. Yeah, and what I saw, and again, if nothing had changed, I mean, I saw where the mattresses were made out of, the straw in stuff like that, and it was just so original, for lack of a better word.
Yeah. They try to do their best, to put it in that frame as possible, and it's good. You don't see very much when you go in there, and I think that's a good thing, because as I travel around and see more of these places and other places, some people try too hard. They over adorn the place. They put too much stuff in there. They try to put in these places what they learned, and what they learned was incorrect, because again, they wanted us to believe that the enslaved people were happy and that the enslavers were benevolent. None of that stuff's true. Well, those enslavers just provided the basics, especially for the field hands. They were lucky to have had shelter. And as you witnessed at Magnolia Plantation and Gardens, is that those places were duplexes. Those very small houses were duplexes, 2 families per building. And those families were as large as the number of children that enslaved woman could produce, because that's what the enslaver wanted. At the age of 12, in some cases, in the case of South Carolina, you start at the age of 12, you start paying taxes on these enslaved people. Well, instead of paying taxes on these enslaved people, you sell them. So you saw a lot of movement in the population of period in the population of children around that age, and you also see a lot of movement of people right around the end of the year. Right around Christmas and New Year's, you may get a week off, sometimes longer. So as you are reveling and having fun to have this time off, well, those enslavers are looking at the books, trying to make ends meet. Well, if those ends don't meet, you got to sell property. And who's the property? The
That's right.
property are those enslaved people. You get sold out, I rented out. And that was the life of enslaved people.
Yeah. Yeah. So again, get back to some of your challenges again. My understanding, and I believe I heard you say this, is that you've gone to states like all of like Alabama, is that correct? Louisiana, right? And not in Florida, Georgia.
Florida, Georgia, yeah. But here's the thing. When I started this thing 16 years ago, slavery to me was plantations in the South. And I was too limited in my thinking, because even thinking plantations in the South, I missed a major element. And that element is urban slavery. Because if you go down through the city of Charleston, the historic city of Charleston, or Georgetown for that matter, historic cities, 1670, 1680, 1690, when these places started to become places, well, these places were founded. You got these nice, beautiful, big houses that people come to see. Well, those big houses, wouldn't exist without the population of enslaved people. So I was missing urban slavery, and I was certainly missing northern slavery, because again, slavery to me when I graduated was a plantation in the South. Well, so when I started this thing, and then I started learning about northern plantation, and see, that kind of set us up for this research that we're doing now, because a lot of that slavery that existed in the northern states had a lot to do with the colonial era.
Absolutely.
Of our
Yeah.
history. And it's that colonial era, a lot of those that slavery that went on in those northern states was during that period in history. So I've gone to those northern states also, and I've slept in places in those northern states, and a lot of times slavery in those northern states was more intimate in the sense that sometimes the enslaved people stayed in the garret or the basement, or the attic or the basement. And a lot of times these places are saved by default, because these people are saving the nice, beautiful big house, but at the same time they're saving the places where our enslaved ancestors once inhabited.
So those are probably that structural that you just described is usually in the north, right? The basements and upstairs and stuff like that, as opposed to maybe down in Georgia or Florida where you were, even in Alabama.
Well, usually, yes, usually, but you get your places sometimes like Holly Springs, Mississippi. I've been going there for the last 12 years or so, and in that place started out in Holly Springs. Although it's a kind of a small town, but these enslavers, a lot of those enslavers in Mississippi, when Mississippi became a state kind of late in the game, it although it came late in the game, the population of enslaved people grew immensely, quickly, fast. In fact, the population of South Carolina in 1860 was approximately 703,000 people. And of that 703,000 people, approximately 400,000 of them were enslaved. So the majority population at the beginning of the Civil War were Black folks. Well, there was one other state in this nation with a similar ratio. That is, they had a population of Black folks greater than that of white folks, and that was the state of Mississippi. The first two states to secede from the Union, South Carolina inland Mississippi.
Right.
So there are other places that I go, like Holly Springs, Mississippi, where I'm interpreting urban slavery, although that's a very small town or city on the map.
But you saw some of those dwellings there. A lot of those dwellings,
Yeah,
original buildings.
a lot of them are original. A lot of places I've stayed are original. Some places I've gone, the buildings aren't there anymore. Sometimes we'll go pitch a tent at a place a slave dwelling once was. And some of these places, sometimes they use archaeology. They get that footprint of that building and they'll
Yeah,
recreate a
yeah.
building.
Right,
They did that
right.
at presidential sites. The Montpelier, the home of President James Madison. Monticello, the home of Thomas Jefferson. They used that method through the archaeology. They recreated a
Yeah,
slave dwelling on that
yeah.
footprint.
Right. Yeah, yeah. So I asked you about those challenges because I think I recall you saying one time that there was some physical resistance at one of the states. I don't know which state that was, but I want to know how you endured that, how you dealt with that.
Well, there are those out there that want this story to go away. I mean,
Yeah,
it's always been like that. But the slave dwelling project has been around for 16 years, and I imagine it's going to be around even when I'm not here, because we are a 501c3 organization, that way. But there was certainly less resistance to this project leading up to 2025, before the election, before the most
yeah,
recent
right.
presidential election. There was certainly more people and more organization openly receptive to this idea, to this project. Um, are we still getting phone calls and putting things on the calendar? Yes. Did we get folks who called us right after the election and said that it's off? We got that too. But we got more people saying that, yeah, we're still here. Let's do this. Let's continue to plan this thing. So I'm happy that's still the case. Um, our biggest challenge now is working with the National Park Service, because there are some Park Service sites that they said that we want you here, but you see what we're dealing with. Now is not the time. Although, just last week I was negotiating. I'm currently negotiating with sites. I won't put them out there right now
Yeah,
because
yeah. Well, we
people are
understand.
just kind of bad that way. But I'm still negotiating with some National Park Service sites, and we're still planning this thing as if it's going to happen. So we're going to continue to stay in the game, just as they are staying in the game. And luckily for us, this one particular site that we're dealing with right now, it has a lot of partners, because even if they have to pull out, then these partners can still make
Yeah.
make this thing happen. So there's always going to be that pushback. It's just that it's just so blatant right now. The racism is just out in the open, and people are proud to profess themselves as such. So there's that.
Well, yeah, if they don't, we'll never know who we are dealing with. Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
That's
There you go.
that's the plus, and that's the fortunate thing about how we're getting all these racist actions with dealing on this administration. Okay, if people feel free now to do it and to say things that they would refrain from saying a long time ago. But those same people who are saying that, they're just revealing themselves. So now we know who we are dealing with and what we're dealing with. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and what we're
Yeah.
dealing with. So that's a plus there. Otherwise we never would know. We don't know what what we're dealing with, what restaurant to eat at, for that matter.
Uh-huh. And,
So
and with this social media thing, man, they're just letting it go.
yeah, yeah. Now I can see why they want to try to abolish TikTok. Uh, TikTok got some
yeah,
stuff on there that
yeah,
people
yeah,
really need to see sometimes.
but but most recently, TikTok, they've been acquired
Yeah, yeah,
by
yeah.
this American faction, and I get a lot of community guideline violation, get a lot of strikes. I don't know how much longer I'm going to be there. I'm going to be there as long as they continue to keep me. But I know I'm probably one strike away from them kicking me out of there because I do what I do in the manner of how I do it.
Yeah. Wow, man. Uh, well, congratulations again for this past Saturday on and your yeah, you're propagating that information for a lot of people who never saw that. Okay, a lot of people who never saw that. And again, I was told that there were over 120 some people there, and the Economy Museum isn't so big. Okay, that
And
auditorium there.
and diverse, quite a diverse
Yeah,
audience.
yeah,
I
yeah,
was
yeah,
quite impressed by that.
yeah, absolutely. And there was good cooperation there with the Whittemore Race Path
Mhm.
Historical Society, who is going. Yeah, they're working very diligently in trying to maintain that legacy there.
Yeah,
Uh,
they
folk
gave me a
con-
gift. I got a gift from.
they got a gift.
Yeah.
Uh, I
Um,
can't see that. I don't know what it is, but
it says Racial Justice Prayer Journal. Dr. Emmanuel McCall.
okay, okay. So it was presented to you by the Whittemore Race Path Historical Society.
Yes.
Absolutely, that's great. That's great. That's great. Yeah, man. So look, it's really been interesting today, and I knew it was going to be very interesting. I knew you had a lot of stuff that you didn't tell us about the last time, and all the things that have progressed from the
Yeah.
last time.
And I got one more thing to talk about.
Yeah,
If
go
you
ahead.
got time.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So what I'm holding in my hand right now is an advertisement for our upcoming Slave Dwelling Project conference. It's titled 250 Years and Counting, Reckoning, Resilience, and Remembrance, October 1st through the 3rd, 2026, North Charleston, South Carolina. It's going to be
Yeah,
at the North Charleston Convention Center, guys. Again, we're going to be concentrating on that era, 1770 through 1783, here in the state of South Carolina. We know a lot about Francis Marion, but Francis Marion had an enslaved person almost by his side almost all the time during that Revolutionary War activity that he was involved in. His name was Oscar Marion. Um, well, we're bringing Oscar Marion to life. In fact, I brought that role to life at least twice so far. We did the first Sweet Potato Festival in Georgetown a few months ago. I went to the state capitol last month, and I and I played the role of Oscar Marion, the enslaved person of Francis Marion. But here's what saddens me. Um, After Oscar Marion had done all that Oscar Marion did during that Revolutionary War battle, after the Revolutionary War, he was still enslaved. Francis Marion still enslaved him. So there was that. Um, so when I put on that outfit of Oscar Marion, I I make it clear of the fact that he remained enslaved. It's kind of like the Lewis and Clark expedition, going out west and mapping the United States for manifest destiny, which is a whole nother story. But there was an enslaved person on that particular expedition. His name was York, and York expected to be free after that expedition, but no, he was still enslaved when he got back to wherever they originated. So the Francis Marion story is similar to that. So there.
yeah, yeah. It was Francis Marion. Yeah, they used to call him the Fox, I believe.
Yeah, the fox. Yeah, the swamp fox. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah, the Fox. So, as much as He had this TV program that used to come on many, many years ago. Weekly series on Francis Marion. But anyway.
And then there's the Thomas Sumter story. You know, the Fort Sumter is named for Thomas Sumter. Thomas Sumter was another commander during the Revolutionary War. And Thomas Sumter, he acquired a lot of his wealth because he could. It was written. It was a rule or a law that said, whatever you pillage or plunder from the loyalists, you know, those loyal to the king, you can have. That's your property. You can keep it. So a lot of those Revolutionary War commanders of that period, when we do the research, you will see that after the Revolution, those men were rich. They became very, very rich. So these same men who were fighting for liberty from England, you know, I mean, physically fighting, I mean, commanders, they're on the front line doing this. These men are, they got their liberty, but they are quite diligent in making sure that people remain enslaved. And these same people who were enslaved would give birth to these people who would, in 1860, now the descendants of those from the Revolutionary War period are still a part of this majority of people. Again, the Black folks are the majority in the state, had been the majority in the state since 1708. And that goes all the way up to the Civil War. And South Carolina is going to do everything within its power to hold on to that peculiar institution of slavery. So that's some of the research that we're doing. We're going to be tying those, connecting those dots.
It's scheduled to be interesting, man. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. So look, Joe, man, it's been a blessing. We always run out of time when the good stuff is shooting out there. But it's good to have you on back again. And good luck on your endeavor for reaching the UK. I think that's going to be interesting, and not just the UK, since it's the world needs to know about these things. Okay.
Oh yeah, we're gonna. Yeah. Well, we're not afraid. We're not afraid to talk about slave owning presidents. There were 12 of them. We're gonna talk about them.
Right. Yeah. So, good luck and Godspeed, man. And when I know you can give us some more developments after this October conference, right? That's really slave dwelling conference.
Oh yeah, they will. Yeah, we'll have that second book out. We'll have more to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. Can't wait, man. Can't wait. This has been interesting. And so look, we'll be talking with you again, and to our audience, glad for you to could hold your attention to viewing tonight. And April doing a great job in the background as usual. So, and thank you all so much for being with us, and we'll see you next week, same time, same bat channel. Okay. Good luck and Godspeed.
Thank you for watching the World Community Magazine's Hour of Power Live on Facebook.